I had 3 encounters the last year, or maybe a little more than a year. And each time that picture went up on social media, some people felt strongly it was great that you had this encounter, this meeting, and some people felt very against it. One was during Surfside incident. As many of you know, I was very involved as a chaplain there, and President Biden came there to meet the families, and there was a picture on social media of that encounter, of that moment when I was with him. And some people said, wow, great, you were next to Biden and you're President Biden. And some people felt, how could you be in the same room as him or take a picture standing next to him? You know what he stands for. I was invited to give the invocation for our mayor, Danielle Levine Cava, and we had a picture on social media of me standing with her. And some people felt great, so great you met with her, it was great you had the honor of giving the invocation when she became the mayor. And some people said, how could you meet with her? You know what she stands for? And then this past week, Michael and Grant Miller gave me the honor to give the benediction when Governor Desantis came to our community. They made a luncheon. Some people felt great. You're standing there with Governor Desantis. You know what he does for Israel, for the Jewish people. And some people say, how can you meet with Governor Desantis and have a picture next to him? You know what he stands for? Interesting. 3 different people, 3 different offices, the president, the governor, and the mayor. I'm sure you're watching this right now. You have a strong opinion. One, definitely, you have to understand, because this person or she or he does this, but the other one, they're terrible. The question is, when a rabbi gets invited to go somewhere, should the rabbi make a decision based on if it politically lines up with my political views? Or should the rabbis go to a place when they get invited to elected office? It could be a mayor, a governor, it could be a president. We go up there. And what is the point of going there? And should we show up there? Because I'm sure if you're still watching this video, you have a very strong opinion about one of the people I was with, if I should have been there with him or not, or her with her or not. So I want to share with you a story that Alan Dershowitz shared, that a story that happened to him at Lubavitcher Rebbe. And he shares the story that, and I'm going to share this story, a very interesting story. And he says like this, I'm going to read this story. He says, I was involved, I did not have much occasion to meet with the Rebbe, but one I want to share with you, this is Dershowitz says, one involved Senator Jesse Helms. And Dershowitz says, I was involved in civil rights and human rights, and I considered Senator Helms to be the enemy of the Jewish people. At that time, he was not a friend of the Jewish people, this is the early 70s, and not a friend of Israel. He stood against everything that I stood for, and against what many of my friends and colleagues stood for. In 1984, when I heard that Senator Helms was being honored by Chabad at a reception in Washington, I was surprised and disappointed. In my nativity, he says, Dershowitz says, I had the chutzpah and wrote a letter to the Rebbe, respectfully asking why he chose to honor a man who was, in my view, against Israel, against integration, against social rights, equality for all. The Rebbe replied with a very powerful letter. He explained that Senator Helms was not being singled out for an honor, but was simply one of many U.S. senators and U.S. representatives who came to the Education Day USA. The Rebbe wrote a long and beautiful P.S., and this is what I want to say, explaining how one influences other human beings, all people, but especially politicians, who often act out of what's good, but many times they have convictions, should be engaged in a positive way. That way we can try to influence them. He said I should watch carefully to see whether or not we have an influence on Jesse Helms. Dershowitz continues, sure enough, very shortly after he was honored, Senator Helms assumed a very influential role in the United States Senate Foreign Relations Committee and became one of the strongest supporters of Israel and of other Jewish causes as well. So he continues, so obviously the Rebbe had an enormous influence on persuading Jesse Helms that even with his very conservative values, he could become a beacon for the Jewish people and the Jewish state. You see, we as Jewish people have a role to be an inspiration and inspire people. We have a role to, when we show up somewhere, we say, could we inspire the people? Could we be there to make a difference in the world? See, it's very easy to sit on the sideline and complain and criticize and have a strong opinion about this. And because of this, I'm not going to speak to this friend. Unfortunately, the people told me they lost friends because of their political views. On a daily basis, in the encounters we have with people from all sides of the aisle, as we say, we have an opportunity to inspire them we have an opportunity to talk to them and become close with them, that through that friendship and closeness, we're able to influence them and inspire them to do what we believe is what our responsibility and justice, and what we can change the world from goodness and kindness. And that is our role, and that is our responsibility. And that's why when I'm invited, I have an opportunity to meet someone who's elected official, I will be there every time, regardless if my personal beliefs and views are the same as theirs. But I do know if God put them in that particular position, they're sitting in a seat that they could affect our community, they could affect our state, they could affect our world, and we have a responsibility to be there with them on that journey, and be there with them to be able to help them in the path that they're taking as leaders of our community. Shabbat Shalom.